Among the flora and the fauna, beneath the branches who want to love ya, among the many souls who drive and lose control and stumble into a secret right under your nose.
Blessings, fellow weird and wild ones. My name's Goddess, aka G, aka your friendly neighborhood witch. They, them, their pronouns, please and thank you, point blank, period. Thank you for joining me in the practice of finding our way back to wholeness. This is our temple, our playground, our life, and our truths. During our audio session together, I will be talking with my village on how we are healing, changing paradigms, and decolonizing and degendering the mind. You are not alone. You are enough. Let's plant these divine seeds together. This work is for the collective from me, and there's a lot of magic that goes on behind the scenes. Find ways to support and reciprocate me and the other co-creators on the show at the links below. Grab your pens and paper, grab your woes, and let go.
Among the flora and the fauna, beneath the branches who wanna love ya.
Shout out and big thank you to a dear friend of mine, Lori Amadeo, for sharing her track Radiate Out with us. Check it out on the SoundCloud link below. You know what? I ain't even gonna lie. I just got on the phone with you, and this has been an ordeal trying to record this, and I think the world should know. And also, just dealing with technical issues, mental health is real. I needed a break. It has been a thing. How you feeling? How you feeling?
I'm about on the same. Physical and mental health are both very real. I didn't think it was going to hit me so hard that I was supposed to be on vacation this week, and I was just like, okay, keep the time off. Just write your capstone paper and finish up this masters. And I just haven't had the motivation because I was supposed to be on a beach. And I'm allowed to be sad about that and want to be there instead.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Rona just be cutting into everybody. Okay, so can you tell us a bit about you before we get into it? Yeah. Name, pronouns, title, all that jazz.
Yeah, most definitely. My name is Katrina Solomon. She, her, hers are the pronouns that I use. Title is something that I'm currently playing with, honestly. I think that's a lot of imposter syndrome, though, because it's no, Katrina, you're getting a second master's degree, and you're, into this, certification. Own it. But, I don't know, healthy sexuality consultant is where I'm at right now. That is what I have settled on at the moment. And what I feel comfortable providing to others before officially having the master's degree, which will be in a month. So that's not easy. Yeah. Let me see. What was the other? Oh, just my bio. I'm sorry. Who am I? I am Katrina. I am a Black, cisgender, polyamorous, middle class, queer, chronically ill atheist. I have a couple weeks left as a master's student for my women's and gender studies, master's of arts degree. I already have a master's of science in apparel, textiles, and merchandising with a focus in textile science. I'm working towards my ASEX certification to be a certified sex educator and counselor. Member of NAACP, TRIOTA, NWSA, a whole bunch of acronyms that don't matter unless you're in fields except NAACP. I hope everyone knows what that is. And Zeta Sigma Chi, Multicultural Sorority Incorporated.
Incorporated.
So a bunch of stuff. I do a lot.
All right. Yeah, you're involved with a lot. You you do a lot. Like second masters, also congratulations on almost completing that. You mentioned that you were black-bodied, and so so perfect. I am also black-bodied. I'm hoping people know that by now.
So black/mixed for me. That is another part of that, like, a whole different conversation. We could have some other time about colorism and tragic mulatto bullshit and our want to steer farther into the minority. It's a whole thing. But yeah, so typically black, but I do still respect my dad at least. Not so much the rest of them.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Before we do this check-in, I want to let people know that we will be covering sex and gender-related topics. They might include unwanted and wanted sexual acts. We will be talking about genitalia and all things related to what we do with those parts. So there we go. That's the public announcement. And
I love the content warning.
Yeah, the content warning. And with that being said, in this moment, where do you feel your sexual energy is kind of at in your body?
At this moment, I would say it is, very literally, it feels like it is in my stomach right now. It feels like it is somewhere near my center and someplace that feels close to me and like home. It doesn't feel like it really needs to be expressed vibrantly in this moment, but it's comfortable.
I like that. It's like comfortable. It's there. You can feel it, but like it's not like pay attention to me. Like you can do that later. Rock on. And we'll get, I think, more into that a little bit later, or actually pretty soon here, about like what it means to like the difference between like a sexual arousal and like other arousal. And anyway, in my body, I'm actually not like feeling it today, and I don't know if it's just because I haven't warmed up completely like to the day, but like I think I'm more feeling like back pain and just like from yesterday and just doing some feeling into some tough parts of my life right now. But I'm so excited for this conversation, and I know as like we go on in this conversation, those like that excitement, like that creative energy will start like showing up. And I'm drinking my Bang Allspice tea, so I know it's gonna come up.
Wow! Oh my gosh, I love that. I respect you just letting us know that there are other needs and feelings in your body that take priority at this moment, even if this is supposed to be a conversation about sex, that our bodies are allowed to feel whatever they feel in the moment, and they don't have to perform a certain way.
Well said. I like the way you said that. Really well said. Woo. All right. Well, so let's start off with your journey in sex education. Where did it start for you, and what were some of like the pivotal moments?
Okay, so I thought about this question a lot, actually, and I decided that I can't really say where it started, because sex is so fundamental in our society, and it's one of those things I feel like is underlying in all situations. There's some sense of sex or sexuality in how we flow so often that is hard to pick a beginning, right? When you first figured out what sex is, or first thought about it, or first thought about pleasure, or decided that was important for a lot of people. But tell the story of just starting the journey with my master's degree this time. I think that's a good place to talk about sex education becoming more of something I took seriously and how I want to educate and relate to others.
All right.
So that began, and with me deciding that I had gotten a master's degree already, Eddie, and that was beautiful and wonderful, and I loved the security that provides. But I knew that I wasn't really happy in what I was doing. I looked around, and I was like, I'm in corporate America. This is kind of everything I don't want to be doing in my life. And it didn't feel good. Like, you couldn't feel, again, that sexual energy that feels so fundamental to me. And I started listening to podcasts, actually, when I was there. And I started listening to podcasts and audiobooks about sex specifically. I was listening to the whole lesbian and sex book. I was listening to Life on the Swing Set and Polyamory Weekly, and I was really just trying to escape my situation in corporate America by something that felt good to me. And I realized that if this is where I wanted to escape, why isn't that something that I'm putting more energy towards? Like, why is that not something that I'm embracing more in my life? And decided to go back and get this master's degree. And through this time, I went to the Kinky College Conference and the ASEC Conference and really took that learning seriously. And I think one of those big moments for me was when I was at the Kinky College Conference. I was in a session called Mind Fuck. And,
wait, Mind Fuck?
Yeah, Mind Fuck. It was talking about BDSM and, like, playing with people's brains and how, we talked about gaslighting and all these things in feminist spaces and how that's negative. But the fact that people can consent to letting you play with their brains in situations. And that's essentially what you're doing when you go to see a magician, or you go to certain concerts, or you take drugs, or whatever. You want to play with your brain for a little bit. You want to escape and to give that control to somebody else. And say, hey, I want you to make me believe something else for a little bit. Right? Is pretty much my process. But, sorry, I'm going on a tangent. But the point was, from that session, the person who was presenting said something that just stuck with me. And he said that you can't be a badass if you're never willing to be the bad guy. And I was just like, oh shit, I need to start being louder about what I believe in the world. Like, I can't be the person that I want to be. I can't really embody this unless I am willing to be disagreeable and to, like, go for it.
Hell yeah. And, like, that was, like, a great tangent. I wanted to know more about the mind fucking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that too, but again, I know we have a lot to talk about.
Oh, so much. Okay. So, now, like, with the, you said Kink College? With Kink College and taking in all this knowledge. Yeah. You also have invested quite a bit of money, not only in your education, but, like, in what to use to, like, you know, do your consultant work. Like, you were telling me about, like, gender expansive sex dummies that you specifically got for the workshops. Can you tell us a little bit about, like, how did you find these dummies? Because I think it's important that we know what's available out there for us to explore our sexuality, and also for people to have examples of what genitalia can look like and be referred to as.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was such a journey to be able to find everything that I wanted to show, right? So I guess the beginning was just getting mad, honestly, as many of my journeys start. It's just getting mad at the fact that I did not see a penis in real life until I went to have sex for the first time. And honestly, it was kind of dark. I wasn't sure what it looked like for the second time I had sex with them. And that was absurd to me. Like, how did I get to these places in my life without having any idea what it even looked like, what this could be? And I got mad. I got mad about it. And when I decided that I was going to do sex education, and to me, again, there were many starts. I also have a program, Sexapalooza, that did its 10th year annually at my school, Eastern, that I started 10 years ago because I got mad that no one taught sex education. And my sorority still does it.
Woo!
So, that also happened. Thank you. So mostly I found these things on Amazon, and it is about figuring out what to search. Because if you just look for sex education tools, you're not going to find anything useful, or you're going to find very similar looking bodies at the very least. I got most of these things on Amazon, again, which is not necessarily the most ethical place to get things, but it is very convenient. As being chronically ill, I can't really run out and get a lot, and you can't find it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to specifically look up LGBTQ sex toys, or then it wasn't just LGBTQ, it was specifically gay male sex toys to find specific models of just penises and what external genitalia can look like. It was hell to try and find a dildo with foreskin, and it still doesn't move. Ew on the horse. It's silly. And to find realistic and feeling and looking vulvas, I had to get grafting vulvas that they typically use in drag, or transgender folk will use to pad underwear or attempt to quote unquote mask or appear differently.
Is the grafting one the one that you used in your workshop that was like circular?
That was what?
Is it like the circular one that you used in one of your workshops?
Yeah.
Okay.
The circles that were I bought the 4 that were available at the time. There were 4 different vulvas.
Gotcha. Awesome. I'm like, I'm tempted to be like, can you like create like an Amazon wish list for this so we can all like buy it?
Actually, I can 100% do that. It's part of what I'm writing up anyway for my capstone. So in the next month, I should have an actual list and budget of everything that I spent. So I could also give that to you because I think that they're amazing tools. And a lot of things that I don't think people really had thought of. Like, I had gotten kneeling pads and fidgets and things just to make the space a lot more accessible. Although, I decided to buy my own projector because it was cheaper than renting the one at the place for $50 a day. I was like, I could just spend $50 on my own projector.
Yeah. And save that for like...
Right. It's a lot of things that I think presenters typically find that you needed once they get to the situation. That it'd be a little bit easier if people just made lists.
Yeah. Yes. Very, very true.
Yeah. But yeah, I have every intention of making this accessible, and I will get it to you as soon as I have it, because no one should have to do this work again. This is absurd. That's the whole point, right?
Thank you. Thank you. Preach it.
Yeah.
So how does like whiteness, patriarchy, and heteronormativity play into your to our current sex culture? Because not only is it hard to find like gender expansive sex toys, but also sex toys that have like an array of shades. So how is this showing up in our culture?
Oh my gosh, it is showing up everywhere still, and we are getting better. better. I am not going to discount the progress we have made. As far as we now have feminist porn, which is beautiful. Crash Pad is the best thing, honestly. But you still have people very excited that what's the popular one? Pornhub. Pornhub is like free. Pornhub was free for the month for the pandemic. And I'm like, yeah, but they treat sex workers like crap. They are pro-customer and not pro-worker at all.
Absolutely.
That's not a say.
And like pro-specific, like male customer. Like I wouldn't say they cater, like to other people.
Of course they care about making money. Of course they care about y'all. Y'all are the ones who make them profit. What? That's not who I care about them caring about.
Mm-hmm.
And they will advertise in that way, and people will legitimately see it as ethical and good because they are doing something to keep the audience amused during this time. And I'm like, maybe we should try to get a higher bar on what's good. That's not it.
Very.
I don't know.
Very.
I don't know. Right? And they still use, and not just Pornhub. I'm not just trying to call them out. So many places still use very derogatory language just to categorize their videos. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, that would be such an easy change in society. If someone took the time to be like find somebody who has like the admin and rights on Pornhub to like just find all of that word and replace it with black instead of ebony. I don't know. That seemed more like what I was looking for.
Yeah. Oh,
it's just simple things that I feel like at a certain point it's a choice. You've made a choice to represent communities in a way that isn't fair to them, and isn't cool. That's not cool. That's not how we want to be represented.
Absolutely.
And again, totally kinky, totally about this. There's so many things people can consent to, but the whole thing is that they gotta consent to it.
That's true.
Also, I just wanted to go back to the actual question. You said sex toys. I just wanted to expand that a little bit. I just was having a hard time finding pictures of vulvas that were not white. Or, like, there was a lot of breast campaigns. Breasts were easy to find. And because breast cancer is something that we focus on a lot in our country, which is beautiful. Oh, but it is typically white women that we're seeing still. Even in the, I can't remember, it was either the Labia Library. Yep. I believe it was the Labia Library. I got pictures of various women, and I very much appreciated them attempting to find some diversity, because I also saw some photo series that I'm not going to call out specifically people, but there clearly was no attempt. There was no attempt. There's no way you couldn't find a single brown penis.
Yeah.
I was like, I can literally just open my messages to like everyone, and a brown penis will just fall in there. You can try.
I see them all the time. I just like a picture just fell. Oh God. Very true. It's easy to find those. Hopefully they would be cool with them being posted. But I think there's something to that, because like I don't know if it's a lack of trust of the people who are doing these studies by the BIPOC community, or if it's like them actually not like seeking us out. And I think it's a bit of both. And we have damn good reason for not trusting people who want to do research on us. Like, we've been severely mistreated in the medical field before and used horrendously for experiments.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's really interesting. I know people like to make fun of anti-vaxxers a lot, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer, just to be very clear. But I just don't think it's a funny joke that people are scared of their medical community. And I'm like, that seems like a giant distrust that we should address. That's not funny to me.
Yeah, that's actually really well said. Yeah.
Well, I thank you. You know, I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to make fun of people who like I don't know. It's the same way I feel about the protests that are going on right now for the governor in Michigan. I'm in Michigan, so it's relevant. I'm just like, yeah, they didn't hide that those are KKK protests. We know that. But also, like, I don't feel like making fun of people who are putting themselves at risk. This is not funny.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Woo. I'm just thinking about that. I'm like, oh God, yeah.
Oh no, I brought the sexual energy down.
No, we gonna bring it back up. Well, okay. So how do these systems or like perspectives, like the white perspective, the male dominant perspective, the cis perspective, kind of. And I don't want to call them perspectives because they're lived experiences, but there's so much about them. Like there's dogmas within them, and there's ideologies that I think, and it's not just in white culture. Like these are in other places as well, and other cultures. But like shame, repression, and what is the ideal body image?
Yeah. Okay. I think I understand where you're going. And excuse me if I'm not answering your questions correctly. Then we can rephrase the question.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yes. So what immediately came to mind was what different colored sexy spaces look like, right? Because we do segregate still. That's a very stone thing. So, so I've been going to the Dirty Show in Detroit every year. It's an erotic art show. It is amazing. It is huge. There's like burlesque shows and like kinky people, and like you can like watch people get flogged. That's the word. I was like, not beat. Don't say you're getting beat. You're getting flogged. Well, you can get some candle wax stripped on you. It's like a whole thing. It's a whole bunch of fun. But there's another show that's coming up in Detroit that would have been on its second year, I believe, which is Mississippi Mud, which is an incredibly black-oriented show that is pretty much advertising the same thing. And it is interesting because, one, they had no idea each other even existed.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, can we just talk to each other? Because they tried to have it on the same weekend, and I'm just like, probably don't do that. No one's gonna come to the new show. Clearly because it's newer. And it was interesting saying what is sexy in these spaces, right? So it seemed like blacker spaces eroticized just the idea of queerness more. Like the shows where women kissing was just like, oh my gosh. And
wait, women what?
It's kissing, just kissing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, they were just kissing. It was like, we've never seen anything like this before. And it was like, that was, and it's interesting really because that is what is so taboo within the culture, that is the dirtiest thing you could think of. That is the thing that you would eroticize. We eroticize what's taboo to us.
Holy crap! You mean like queer phobia within the black culture? Because we can go there. We can say it. It's so rampant. It's so rampant. Yeah.
It's exactly what it is. That queer phobia is so rampant that we don't even realize that we eroticize it because that is the taboo. And that's the thing. Kink culture is very different here than it would be in, say, Europe. Just what scares us is different. their horror movies are a lot more Jack the Ripper, and ours are a lot more like we got like caught in the woods by ourselves, that isolation. Like, we're scared of different things. We eroticize different things. Different things are taboo based on your culture. Definitely. And we, in the Black community, eroticize that queerness. And the white community, I could say, eroticize Black people. A lot of that going on. And it's one of those areas that's hard because you don't want to tell people what they find attractive or sexual is wrong. You're allowed to eroticize that with people who consent to those things and to seek those situations out. But people I don't feel like they question their motivation often enough.
Yeah, because we don't want to look at them. It's just like, it is what it is. I'm not going to look at it. I'm already feeling awkward because it's sexual. And now I don't want to add this layer of discomfort.
Yeah, no, there's totally things. There are so many things that I am into that I'm just like, okay, but like, no, we need to evaluate why you eroticize. I think just like we need to evaluate our daddy issues, not ours individually, but like as a culture, the fact that that's even a saying.
Yes. Were you the one that posted about daddy issues the other day?
Yeah, I was.
That was on point.
Yes, I was like, we need to evaluate our daddy issues. But that is something we eroticize. And we eroticize that pretty across the board, despite race, right? Mm-hmm. Like, in most cultures, there's some sort of daddy issue fantasy, whether it's it's that power dynamic that we like a lot.
Yeah. Can you...
And we like to play at it, and we like to reform it, and that's okay, because the sexual space is a good space to reform and reevaluate things and how we relate to those categories or those like archetype people. And it's why they talk about it as they talk about role play, and the sexual space is a great way for some people to heal from sexual violence and trauma, because you get to rewrite that narrative. You get to really be in control. You get to evaluate stories and be like, okay, this is what happened or how I wish I would have reacted, and you get to change it a little bit.
That's very true. I've had situations where, so I don't want to say situations, but like conversations with people about like that very idea, like coming from a place of being raped and molested, like wanting to reclaim that power in sexual situations and like with someone I trusted. And it felt like such a weird conversation when I first thought about it, like, and like, was initiating it, because I'm like, how could I be thinking in this way? But then as we started talking about it, it made complete sense and like, it felt right. And it felt true to what I needed. And like, talking about our needs is also taboo. It's like, it's something that we repress. And sex is so intimate that like it leaves so much space for that to be explored, along with like the body and all the like, you know, different bells and whistles on the body. So I appreciate what you're saying about like creating that space. So how can we open up those conversations? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that also, I think your question is actually going to lead into it. I'm going to let you talk. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize.
No, I do that a lot. I just decide where we're going next. And nope, you are definitely the leader on this journey. And I need to stop running ahead.
I immediately, like, this is going to sound so weird. I immediately was like, yeah, I'm the dom in this. And I was like, Stop, G. You're being weird.
No, it's not that I'm so submissive, but it's just like that's the problem is that I'm a brat. Like, I'm such a brat that if you give me any kind of leeway, I'm just going to be like, yay, I'm going to go over here now.
Oh my God. Wait, what's your, okay, this is off topic, but what's your sign? Like, what's your sun sign?
I'm a Leo.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a Leo, and I bothered to look up the rest of it. No, I know that there's two more things. Okay, it's a Leo, and then a Gemini. What is it? Ascending or rising?
You're rising Gemini too? Awesome. You're rising Gemini too? Rock on.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay.
Leo, Gemini, and then Virgo. And I'm just like, I don't know what any of the rest of it means because I'm such a Leo. I didn't look it up.
You're woo. Like Gemini, Leo, and Virgo, those are yeah. Woo. Anyway, we can talk about that later.
Like I said, Leo, I just like, okay, I'm the greatest. Like.
Yeah, the Leo's probably like, no, I don't want to look. And the Virgo's like, no, you need to look at this. Like, we need to analyze ourselves like the hell up. And you're like, fuck that, no. And Gemini's like, let's just go play. Let's go have fun. Like.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're gonna talk about it more later because I'm already learning stuff about myself. I'm just like, oh, that makes a lot of sense because I am. I am. Because like that Leo reigns. That optimist does reign. Because even though I look at myself so fucking hard and get so into my introspection in not necessarily great ways, that Leo always be popping up. It's like, but let's go do this now. And like, you're still the greatest, clearly. So even if all that is true,
yeah,
you're also awesome. So fuck it.
Yeah, we'll follow you now, Leo. Like as usual, Leo takes the reign. But anyway, okay. So we were talking about like healing and using or like utilizing sexual spaces as a space to heal. So how do we enter that with curiosity? Like how do we begin to explore pleasure and pain?
Yeah. Oh, that's big, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we need to first I would say that we definitely need to just pulling back a little bit off the I don't want to tell people to jump directly into kink and like consensual non-consent fantasies to fix their trauma. I was like, you can also re-traumatize yourself a lot, and you need to do. There's a lot of work to utilize this area to do your healing. Takes a lot of work, and to decide to do your healing in the same area of your life that trauma may have taken place in general is a huge decision. So if these are sexual traumas, just knowing that those triggers will come up and forgiving yourself. The biggest piece of advice I can give people is to recognize that you're not the enemy. You're not the enemy. You're not something to solve. You are not something to fix in this. And just really knowing that, like, your body is going to be involved in this, and your emotions are going to be involved in this. Your fears and your vulnerability are going to be involved in this. If you really want to use the sexual to heal and to engage with yourself, then you can't label yourself as the problem or the enemy. Your body, you cannot be fighting your body and expecting it to perform joy for you. You cannot, you can't be racing against yourself. You have to be a team. You have to be a team with yourself, and then you bring in whoever you decide to share that space with. If you are sharing that space, you can do this work alone in the sexual realm.
Yeah. And what can that difference look like? Like, you just did a workshop on masturbation, which I definitely want to watch that video, but along like self-pleasuring, because that is another thing that we don't always talk about. I think especially as people who are socialized to be women, about like pleasuring ourselves. It's more seen as like girl talk, and you don't talk about it with men in it. or out, outside of the gender binary. So how can we start to be more curious about what our self-pleasure looks like for all genders?
Yeah, I feel like the first part is admitting we're curious to begin with, because you're already curious. You're asking the question, right? Like,
yeah.
What does this look like? How can I get there? And just forgiving yourself for not already knowing. I guess that is so much, that forgiveness and that letting go of shame. Letting go of all of that shame and that crap that has been piled onto you about how you should think, or what your whatever is supposed to look like, or what's supposed to make you come or feel a certain way. Okay, that's cool, that's dope, but that was the standard, but this is what you fucking got. But, take a moment and, really just look at yourself and look at your genitals and, really accept, this is what I have, right? And if that is displeasing to you to the point where you feel like you need to change or alter or whatever, that's okay. That is okay too. But right now, in this moment, this is what you have. And to, again, to forgive yourself for that and to work with that. And to recognize that even that's always going to change, right? Our ability changes as we get older. We think we're invincible, but age and illness is coming for all of us. I just got to think first, guys. Just so y'all know, when y'all start having hot flashes on me, I'm going to laugh at you first, and I'm going to talk you through it after. Because, we're not done. We're never done. We've never gotten to the point where we're just so comfortable with what we got that we're just like, yeah, I like that. And then something changes. And that has to be okay. You have to be okay with where you are right now and living with that and accepting the fact that whoever you are right now deserves pleasure and deserves to be curious about your own pleasure at the very fucking least. How are you going to expect anyone to care about your pleasure if you can't even tell them that you need it, right? I'm not even saying that you have to figure out exactly what it is beforehand. It could be a team effort, but you have to still be able to say, I'm displeased and I want something else, and we need to figure that out, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's so much out there now, yes, it's limited sometimes when it comes to, gender affirming and, racial affirmation, but there are a lot of different ways to explore your genitals with, outside stimuli. There's dilators, there's wands that are more for, massage, and opening up, the vagina. There's, you know what? Because I don't have a penis, I don't know what's out there for a penis. But they're flashlights and
things. There are vibrating things for them too. There's all kinds. Just about any feeling that you can put on a clitoris, you can put on a penis also. And really, it's about identifying what feelings feel good to you. Do you like something that is feathery or light? Do you like flat tongues? Do you like triangle, hard tongues flicking over things? Do you like to be pinched or cuddled or rubbed only a specific direction? Or do you like flat hands or fingertips? Where do you like those touches? There's what kind of smell do you like during these situations? I love the smell of freshly cut wood. It reminds me of childhood, but also kind of turns me on a little bit. And I get to know that about myself, right? Doing all of the exploration through all of your senses. Don't rely on Google to decide what you're supposed to see, right? We already know that it's flawed. We already know that it's not out there sometimes. So why aren't we looking inside of ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're kind of fed this, this is the ideal of, this is what sex should look like, and this is what you should look like during sex, and what your partner should look like during sex. And that is all fraud. Not everyone looks like that, and clearly everyone is having sex. So...
do you like to be electrocuted? That you need to know those keywords, even stumble upon that.
Exactly. Also, electric play, love electric play. I'm not There's some things I'm like, I could do without, but electric play, I dig it. Like, that's something I like definitely would explore more.
I love my violet wand. It's great. Electric play is wonderful. I'm also in the process of building my kink room during this pandemic. I'm at a standstill because I need some more bulbs, and I'm too scared to go to the store and fiddle with things and too much stuff to have to touch. But as soon as I get these mats on the wall, it's going to be on. I got like my anti-fatigue matting under it so we can stand there forever. It's going to be great.
Damn. It just...
Yeah, right? The violet wand is on the wall, already plugged in so that it reaches. I got my rope with the metal thread through it. It's so great. But I don't really like bondage that much. Like, there's people who are really into like shibari and like things like that. And that is so beautiful, and it's so cool to look at for like 5 minutes to me, and then I don't get it. I'm just like, this seems like it takes forever.
Exactly. It's like a whole damn ordeal, and I'm like,
It's the whole thing, and that's just it. Not everything has to be sexy to everyone, but we can't yuck each other's yums, though, either.
Exactly.
Right? Like, yeah, that is so yummy to that person, and that's beautiful. We don't just do that in sex. We yuck people's movie taste and music taste and like and food taste. We don't like people having this taste that's different than ours, and sex is really just about taste.
Yeah.
What do you like?
Absolutely. Definitely about taste. Definitely about taste. So you talked before in a conversation we had about like how sex is portrayed in the mainstream, and you talked about like laughing in porn and like can you see it? Can you say more to that? Because that was a really interesting like question. Like, can you see laughing in porn?
Yeah. I was about mainstream porn and like what orgasms and what sex looks like and what enjoyment looks like in porn, right? It often looks exaggerated, and you could kind of like tell when you look here. It's like that isn't how I enjoy myself anyway. Like me, singular as a person. I know that I am more playful. I like to laugh. I cover my face when I'm embarrassed. Usually when I'm having an orgasm, I cover my face. And it's not because I'm embarrassed. It just like feels good to like close in that moment. And like, you don't see that in sex. You don't see the playful. You don't see the silly. And how are we supposed to expect people to understand enthusiastic consent when people are playing at it like that? Like, they don't want to be touching each other. It looks like they're at work.
Yeah.
And it's just, I laugh. I've done so much silly shit during sex. Like, what? The first time I figured out what a queef was, and then it didn't stop. Like, what the fuck? Oh, you're just gonna do that every time, every thrust? Okay. Well, this is embarrassing. Are you gonna stop?
Oh my god, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was like, what the fuck? Like apologizing, and then I was like, I don't think that this is exactly just me doing this. Like, I think it's a group effort.
Right. I'm just like, I was so confused though. I'm just in the back of the car because it's high school. So embarrassed.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we shouldn't have to do that. And like, it's fine to have that moment where you queef for the first time and it's hella embarrassing. But you shouldn't also be trying to figure out what the fuck was that.
Can we just talk about what just happened? I need to process this. Yeah. Oh.
Yes, see, this is what sex is supposed to be like. This is the conversation we like. It should have like laughter and fun. It should be relatable.
Yeah.
It should be funny.
And I think like there is a thing called, I forgot what it's called I think in Pornhub specifically, but they do have like comedy style type porn, and it's definitely not what you're talking about. What you're talking about is like true lighthearted, playful and very intimate and like connected with another person. What they're doing is like slapstick comedy mixed with like forced thrusting and like balls in the face, and that's like not what we're talking about.
No,
like
this is
yeah.
No, that's that dude who said Cookie Monster when he was trying to come, and he's like, well, now you just killed it. Like, I'm not even. I'll get over it.
What? I don't know. What? No. God. So I see what you're saying, and I think there's also space for like when you were talking about like that's not how I act during sex. I've been thinking when I started like really exploring and like being more open to how I showed up during sex, I noticed that too. Like I was like, I fake a lot, like, and it's not because I'm trying to like be what do you call it, like patronize like my partners or like any of that. It's just like most of what I've learned about sex I've learned from porn. And so that's what I like, this is what sound you're supposed to make when they do this, and this is what face you're supposed to make, and this is the positions you should like actually be doing to get like pleasure. And like I found that like most of that wasn't accurate and doesn't apply to me. Like I used to be really noisy, and now I'm more silent, like because it allows me to really receive the pleasure, and I don't feel like I have to perform. And like unpacking that and dismantling it and like fully showing up is something I'm still working on. So there is that idea of like authenticity during sex and like where your comfort zone is with that.
Yeah, and that's beautiful, and it's admitting that being authentic is a journey. Right? It is the unpacking of everything else, it's the letting go, and that's going to take a while. It's not that we're pretending or acting in a way intentionally. It's that we're not connected enough with our own pleasure to act in a way that's authentic to our bodies a lot. And to take the time is time consuming. And not everyone has the time or the will or feels connected to sex enough to do it in this place. And that's fine. Because I'm not connected enough to food to do that. There's so many other things that people could take the time to do this work with.
Yeah.
And I also still struggle. That is something that I do still overperform orgasms or moan a little bit louder than I need it to. I am still not great at putting on condoms, which is like the most basic thing they teach you in sex ed. But they scared us so bad about bits and condoms, that I was so terrified of touching it for the longest. So I was just like, that's just going to be your job. You just don't have to handle that.
Yeah, like, I don't know, you like hot potato with the condom in the back. Like,
yeah,
I've
already just seen a penis for the very first time. I'm not really sure. I'm trying to remember which way this thing rolls. Which side is lubricated? I don't fucking know.
There's too many things to do here. Yes.
There's so much going on in those moments that, we don't even recognize that we have to unpack all that. Every time we decide to challenge ourselves, and it is okay not to want to do it in this area.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it can be very rewarding too. It's been very rewarding to me.
It can be, and it does depend a lot on like who we're choosing to have sex with or like what situation we're in, because sometimes there is not a choice, and like whether it be one partner, multiple partners, or you're in like a play, like a play party, like there's so many different dynamics, and you're gonna show up different in probably all of them, and that's okay. It's again about that curiosity and how to explore, and creating a space for others where they feel safe to explore as well is so important. And that kind of leads into this, like, the next question of, you said before, again, in another conversation we had, we need to learn how to play safer or else we won't get to play anymore. So how can we look at consent as a playground and hold people accountable for the games we play?
Yeah, definitely. So the ways in which we can start playing a little bit deeper is to take that accountability, me personally, to educate ourselves, right? Like to learn about what safer sex can look like. And of course, we mean safer sex in various forms. That could be safer health-wise, mentally for all parties. That could be learning how to tie that rope properly so it's not an actual risk to somebody. It could be getting the STI test or taking PrEP or however you choose to maintain your body for whatever you consent to, right? It's your own level of safety and what you consent to, along with that negotiation with partners and whoever you choose to play with. And then there are, if you want to go a little bit more into specifically models of consent, if that was more what you meant by safety.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about those models? There's Fry's, there's Rack, and there's SSC, which I haven't heard of these models, but when you talked about them in your workshop, I was like, well, damn, say more, please.
Oh yeah. Okay, so let me just go to the biggest part of that playing safer is just making sure that we get that consent from all parties. We talked about that. We touched on that a couple of times here. That consent is that biggest piece. You can consent to damn near anything as long as it is actually what you want, and to take the time to make sure that is something you actually want to be doing, and to take the time to make sure it's something your partners actually want to be doing. Come on, guys. Do you really want to just be dragging people to see their point? You fucking hate roller coasters? Stop trying to play games with people who don't want to play those games with you. It's okay. You can do something else. Maybe they're movie people. Maybe they just want to go to the movies. Right? And maybe they don't want to see that action movie, but maybe they really like that musical. We need to stop putting so much pressure on people to perform in exactly the way that we wanted them to, because that's what we want to do right now. And we need to recognize when we're pressuring people, because a lot of times they don't talk enough about what force looks like. And it isn't just actually saying you will do this or...
Yeah.
But a lot of us just heard no means no, right? That was what consent looked like when we were young. I don't know, what did it look like for you, I guess?
Honestly, consent wasn't... It wasn't really about consent when I was younger. When I was a little kid, it was about you stay away from it. You don't touch it. No one touches you. No type of contact in any way. And then when I got into college, consent meant no. And saying no, or it got broader as I got older, and more people were comfortable with actually talking about the gray areas of consent.
Yeah. So, when I was a kid, it was definitely no means no. I remember going to sex ed in middle school, and they gave us this list that we thought was hilarious. We passed around the bus. It was just can't have sex with you today because I just got my hair done, or I'm allergic to sex, or all of these ridiculous. It was a list of 50 ways to say no to sex. And that was sex ed. And it was what? This can't be. This can't be it, right? But even that was pretty open from what I was used to, because I actually went to a 7th grade private school when I was very young. So my family was actually the most open of that group of people, which I didn't realize it wasn't. I don't know. I grew up in the South. It's a whole thing. So, getting to, I was then in the North and in public schools, we were even talking about no means no was like kind of huge. I thought it felt like I was getting away with something, right? And
that Leo.
Yeah,
that Leo.
Yeah. It's a whole thing. I need people. One person tells me often that I'm not as sneaky as I think I am. It's like, people can be you. You think you're just like doing sneaky things, but we're letting you, right? And I was just like, nope, you had no idea, or else y'all wouldn't have let me, clearly. What? It's silly.
Yeah.
But, so expanding on that no means no, because it clearly is ineffective, right? Because it leaves out the silence means no, and I'm in a relationship means no, and all these other ways to say no. Oh, but it also doesn't even tell you how to say yes at any point in time. What if you want to have sex?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm asking, what if you want to have sex? Did they tell you anything?
Like, no, actually, like, how to, it, like, you mean like how to offer sex, or like how to be like, I am interested in coitus, would you like to do that with me?
Yeah,
clearly I still don't know how to ask.
It is that. It's just that we were never told how to say yes at all. It just kind of seemed like this, I don't know, again, 7th day Adventist primary school. So, like, I was just like, something that married people do, right? And
Oh,
as
yeah.
I got older, I was just like, it is something that grown-ups do. Right, but I still didn't know what that was or how you started that. I just knew that they did it, but
I mean, you actually,
it occurred to me at any point in time that I was going to be an adult at some point, and what if I want to do that? What do I do?
exactly,
Right.
exactly. And I think there is something there of that, like, only married people do it, because I think there's kind of that idea that after you're married, it's just expected all the time. Like, whenever your partner wants to do it, you're married, like, you gotta do it. Whereas, like, first of all, everyone's having sex. Like, I shouldn't say everyone's having sex, but, like, people are having sex outside of marriage. And when you're not in that type of commitment with someone, there's more reasons, and it becomes more obvious that you need to ask. Like, and that should be the case in marriage too. Like, you need to ask, and you need to hear, or like physically take in all senses of what the person is giving back to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I like that you said, like, how do we say no, but also how do we say yes? And you also say, like, how, like, can we be a safe person to say no to? And that really hit. So how do we, how do we become a person to say no to?
Yeah, you become a safer person to say no to. So, well, I guess it'd be easier to tell you first what reactions are inappropriate to a no before we talk about what reactions are appropriate. So, you're not a very safe person to say no to if your reaction is going to involve crying and screaming, guilting or shaming. If you're throwing objects or hitting things, harming yourself, asking over and over why or why not. Threats of suicide, attempting to change the other person's mind or win them over, attempting to try and make them feel sorry for turning you down, gaslighting people. These are all really inappropriate reactions to a no. And I do want to say that it is okay to feel rejected and to feel shamed and to feel whatever you feel in that moment. But it is not okay to then make the other person feel your feelings so greatly that they have to feel bad because they're no, because they're allowed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can make sure that the environment is set up so that they don't feel they have to say yes?
Yeah, there's a lot of like things we can consider in that we need to consider before we ask for sexual consent. Is that person ready? I'm sorry. First, we need to consider: are we ready to receive rejection gracefully, and how do we handle rejection before we even think about asking for sex? We need to start with ourselves in that, and then if we feel like we can handle that before we ask another person, we need to know if that if asking for or sex in this situation has a power dynamic to it, that this person might feel pressured in a way that we don't want them to, whether we are in charge of their housing, whether this affects them financially or physically, whether it would affect their employment, whether they say no or not. We shouldn't put people in situations where they are then feeling that pressure that they have to say yes. Can that person reasonably exit the situation if they do choose to say no? Is that person otherwise held captive? Are they in the middle of a meal or a movie? Are you their ride home? Are they at work right now? Did you go to their job to ask them this thing? So it's one of those things that people don't talk about how inappropriate it is or how that other person can feel that much more pressure to say yes because I can't leave. I'm stuck here with you.
Yeah.
Does that person have the capacity to consent in that exact moment? Are they a vulnerable adult you're in charge of? Are they currently intoxicated? Are they conscious? What is their relationship to you? What is their capacity to consent as far as ability? How old are they? Who are you asking? Like, you really need to think about those things also, because it is your job. It's your job to make it safer for all of us. It's all of our job to make this safer and to think about the other person in it, not just what we want, not just our own need fulfillment. How are we going to do that? And how are we going to do that in a way that shows that we care about this space,
mm-hmm.
and that we recognize that sex isn't so scarce that this is the only option. This is the only opportunity you will ever get to fulfill that need. Sex isn't that scarce, and it is not a good enough reason to treat people badly. You don't need it.
Yeah. That's very true. And, like, at any given point, like you said, we're all involved in, like, creating this safe space. At any given point, the roles can be reversed, whether it be with, like, in the same situation or with different situations. And so we always need to be prepared to be the one initiating and the ones who might be, like, you know, putting the brakes on things or putting on the gas pedal, and how do we engage with that? So, like, how can we be prepared to know what we will consent to on the opposite end of that?
Okay, so to figure out what you really want to consent to before you get to these situations would be to evaluate who you're asking accessibility needs in that situation, your own risk awareness for what you're actually asking for. Like, okay, so we talked about electroplay a little bit. So electroplay also releases ozone, which can mess with asthma. That is something that a lot of people wouldn't have immediately known, but I could have asthma. I could definitely, and me not disclosing that I have asthma, and that other person not knowing that is a risk when they electrocute me is dangerous. So both of us taking the time to learn about what we are asking for and how that is going to affect either ourselves or the other person. Because anyone who's being electrocuted, I'm not saying, like, I'm just saying who in the situation you are choosing to be. I'm not saying that it has to be partnered at all, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
evaluating your hard limits, your own desires, your fears, knowing what your triggers are. I personally have a giant fucking spreadsheet. It's excessive. It's ridiculous. No one will do the thing. Except it is definitely a requirement to get into my dance. It's ridiculous. It has like emergency contacts and your allergies and medications you're on. It's just like a giant list of activities and hard limits and boundaries. I like to make my sex life homework, clearly. I turned it into a job. So.
That's the kind of like homework that's like totally cool.
I love it because it's so useful to other people too, because I'm just like, hey, even if you don't actually do it, there's a giant list of keywords that you would have never even thought to Google necessarily before. If you don't know if you're into this thing, Google it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah, so just taking the time to know enough about your desires that they are reasonable asks. Because just wanting it isn't enough, right?
Yeah.
And then knowing enough about yourself and partners and situations to know if you're in a good one or a safe one, and also to trust your partners with the insecurity, right? Like you gotta be brave. You gotta be brave to do this. Getting over shame is all about bravery. It's so much easier to hide sometimes, especially when everyone else is hiding too. If we all just pretend like we don't want that thing, we never have to address it. But to say, I want this to a whole other person, to be vulnerable in that and to not know what their response is going to be, oh my gosh, it's scary.
Yeah.
That's why it's so scary. That's why you have to figure out what you're going to do if they react poorly. Because hopefully, the worst thing that happens is that you end up disappointed because they said no. If you can leave feeling triggered or shamed or all kinds of really negative outcomes when you are open and vulnerable like that. And that's why that partner selection matters too. And like knowing who you're asking, not just for yourself, but not just for them, but for yourself. Like, is this somebody you trust? Do you want to be intimate in this way?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you let it, right? We're not for everyone. We're not supposed to be.
No. And it's, that's just bringing up some stuff for me. But, no, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Like, what you're talking about is so important because there's a lot of shame around, like, you know, wanting, like, being aroused by someone and, like, wanting to have this, like, sexual experience with them. And if what your wants and needs are different, it's really hard to, like, walk away and be like, you know, I just don't think we're compatible in this way. And you're like, and then you go into, like, kind of, at least for me, sometimes I go into, like, okay, I want to make this work. Like, how do I please? And then it's not a fun experience for me then. And, like, you know, vice versa for them. And so really being comfortable with talking about it in, before, like, you get into the nitty gritty and, like, the actual act of sex. Like, hey, what are you into? And, like, this is what I am into. This is my boundaries. These are my allergies, you know? Like, hell yes to that motherfucking spreadsheet. Like, I've done, like, the accelerator and the brakes one. Like, what am I, like, really turned on by? And what am I like, nope, this is, like, my break. But, like, having a list like that, I think would be so empowering for me to be like, this is who I am when I am, like doing sex. When I'm doing sex. When I'm doing it. When I am getting down and dirty. So yeah, yeah. Hell yes to that spreadsheet. Hell yes.
Oh my gosh, I can totally get it used to, it has like an area for like aftercare and before care instructions. I want to separate them because I'm just like, it's just like the way people show up and care for you in those spaces matter. And I'm debating whether to add on a session because I feel like there's like the bigger spreadsheet, and I think that's the other part's going to be a bit smaller of a project, which is like, in this moment, in this particular experience, what are you looking for? Because there's different motivations to have sex, so it doesn't always have to be the same. You don't have to show up with all of your shit every time, right? Right, this could be, there's goal-oriented reasons to have sex. People could have sex to make babies, right? People do that. I don't know why, but people do that. There's emotional reasons to have sex, right? Like, you're trying to get closer to somebody. You are trying to be there and, like, to feel that intimacy with that person. Or sometimes it's physical reasons, and you really just trying to have an orgasm. Like, honestly, that's a good enough fucking reason. Orgasms are great. That shit is dope. It's fine.
Okay, can we talk about the orgasm real quick? Because when it first happened to me, I literally didn't know what was going on. Just like with queefing, I was like, wait, I had to stop and be like, what just happened? And he was like, I don't know. You tell me. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I might have just died.
During partner sex?
Huh?
Are you saying that it was during partner sex?
Well, yeah, like a full, because like I would say my orgasms are different than like with like masturbation than with partnered sex. Because I'm in order for me to have like really pleasurable sex, I am like deeply connected with the other person. And so it's a different experience. Because it's shared for me, like the energy is very shared. But like, and a lot of people haven't had, like, and there are different kinds of orgasms. So like, what can an orgasm feel like? And it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be the goal of sex. It's a great goal, but it definitely doesn't have to be the only goal. And there's other ways of exploring sex and having it be extremely pleasurable. So what is an orgasm?
I typically advise against the Lord sex because then you forget about all of the great journey, right? You're just like, don't get me wrong, I love goal-oriented sex too, but my goal-oriented sex typically looks like edging, and that's my goal for the whole day. We edge for a while, and then that orgasm is going to be great, or I'm going to edge my partner, and that orgasm, so then it's going to be great, or ejaculation, or whatever, just like extending the journey a little bit. Sometimes we just run towards the end, and I'm like, why do you want to be done having sex? I don't understand. Why are you trying to do that? This is the part. Like, we're having sex right now. What?
Fuck yes.
Go back to the world where you're begging me for sex? I'm doing this thing. I don't know. It's weird. But orgasms can feel like, wow, right? They can feel like, wow. They feel like your whole body clenching. It can feel like release. It can feel like a plateau. It can feel like that first bite of a great dessert. It can feel like so many different things. I love the orgasms that it just leaves me feeling smooth, if that's the right word for it. Like, I'm just right, I feel even. I feel very present and right now, and I'm just in that space. It's very similar to South Space, but not exactly for me, because like that is a very like only in submission will I get there specifically, but it's a very close space. Sorry, I need some water. Give me a second.
We talked a lot. It's okay.
Yeah, I do that. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Orgasms are... okay, I guess I should... the best program, besides my own, that I ever went to on Eastern campus was called the Female Orgasm. Right? And it was this giant adult sex ed program. And it was fucking beautiful, but it was probably the first time I ever remembered my first orgasm, because I can remember it when they told us to think of our first one, but then they would mention that most female-bodied people's first orgasm has something to do with water. So I remember it. I immediately flashed back to peeing in my mom's giant tub with all of the jets and damn near drowning myself trying to get my clitoris to this one jet that was stronger than the rest of them. Where it was just like inconvenient. So I was damn near waterboarding myself, really. But those orgasms were fucking dope. I was just like, and that was like the first time that I was just like, I felt that kind of relief, and I wasn't sure what it was. If it had something to do with water specifically, or that part of my body, or I didn't really understand. I just remember seeing the jet going, and something inside me just was like, put your balls on it. Just do that. That's what you want to do. And I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Puberty is weird, right? You just want to rub on stuff. I just did. I didn't tell myself no.
Fuck yes. And I think,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's, there's so much that comes to mind when you talk about that, because like, I'm like, did I have that experience? It's like, no, like, but I think that there's also the experience of like not feeling free to explore that. Like, I think the reason why it took me so many years to have like actually surrender to an orgasm was because I would feel it coming on and think something was wrong and like shut it down, and I would clench and tighten, and then it wasn't pleasurable. And like, there's so many instances when I was younger of when like I was told, no, you shouldn't be having, like, I would, like, I hate wearing tights, but I had to go to church, because that was like, you know, old school black mom, you gotta wear tights when you go to church. And I love like scratching like my mons, and it wasn't like sexual, but it was just, it felt good and comforting. And like, a church lady caught me one time and was like, no. Oh my God, it would scare the crap out of me. But so like, there's been so many times of like that where it's like been like, don't go there, like don't. And so I like bringing that, and then I brought that into the like sex, and so it doesn't allow for this the surrender and the like full on like just take me now that an orgasm can be, because an orgasm feels like, for me it feels like this wave, like my body, like it literally feels like I'm doing a somersault into infinity and like diving and rebirthing myself in anew, and it's beautiful. And those are rare occasions, but I know like the main thing that like makes space for that is when I fully trust the other person, and when I feel like, and when that person is able to like hold me, like actually be in the space where it's not just about them and they're really in tune with me and listening. So
that is beautiful. It's a beautiful space to be in.
It is. Oh
my God, yes.
And like,
it's so beautiful, and oh my gosh, it's great, and it should come up more often, right? Like, it's really hard to find those spaces.
Right.
Like, that's the issue. Not that it's specifically to be that space. It's hard to find those.
Right.
Like, what? Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you were saying about like, how do we create the safe space? Like, it's all of our jobs to create that space, and there are power dynamics we need to be aware of, but it's so important to be aware of who we are in our roles and during sex with different people.
Yes, and for me, sometimes orgasm can feel like quiet. Oh my God, my brain goes so often, so all the time, and it can just feel quiet for a fucking second, and it is so beautiful. It is so beautiful, and it's interesting because there are different kinds of orgasms, right? As you mentioned, there's that partnered orgasm, but I am such a relationship person, actually. It's so ridiculous. So my first relationship I was in for 6.5 years. I didn't have an orgasm in that relationship for the first 3.5 years.
Woo!
Through partnered sex, right? And I just figured that was just something that wasn't going to happen during sex. Like, that just wasn't a partnered activity. I could just handle that thing myself. Sex was just for him. It was totally fine. And I just expected that thing inside of myself. And I also was aware that let me just stay with this dude forever, because I know if I fuck around and cheat on him, I know there is better sex out there. I know damn well that this cannot be it. But I know that if I go out there and get my toe in and like that better, I will fuck around and not be with this dude. I love him. So let me just not, right? And that was an actual decision I made in myself, was to not engage with something that's now so important to me, right? And like, that is okay to make that choice. But gosh, to give up that part of myself now would be so huge. And it doesn't have to, that's what I say, it doesn't have to be that partnered orgasm though, because I accepted that was something that I could just only create for myself then. And luckily that ended as it needed to, and I've gotten to be who I am. But I think that also taking that time where it was just on my own and it was a little bit more reflective was good for me, honestly. I mean, although sex was super like rapey and shit, and anyway, so like the by myself part was better. So.
Fuck yes. Like, man, that was a truth you told about, like, I know if I leave, like, if I find better sex, like, I'm gonna be cheat, like,
yeah.
So honest.
Like
it's so real. So fucking real. So fucking real. Okay, I have so many more questions for you. However, like, we are at an hour, like, almost an hour 30. Like, let me stop. So, okay, clearly we should have you back on. I would love to have you back on. But could you...
Okay, definitely. Okay, let me try and... Yes, because clearly we have a whole bunch of stuff that I still want to talk about. And I think that the best way for me to feel complete is to say a few things that you should most definitely be asking for consent for.
Yes, please. And tell us about your, like, what are some of, like, the things that you're doing right now that you're offering to community, or what you will be doing, so that we can, like, link up with you later.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, my gosh, okay, let me start with the first part. Okay, so what you definitely should be asking for consent for is whether you send your pictures of your genitalia to anybody, dick pics, clit pics, whatever. Don't just send them. Ask first whether you are going to be sexually monogamous or not with a person, before whether the other person wants group sex. Probably don't surprise them with that. Or if you're reporting things, those aren't surprises. Ask each other's accessibility needs. I personally am going to advocate for y'all to ask to see each other's STI results, but I'm super anal about it. I like to actually see your results. And some people can be more private about your medical information, or more open about what you are willing, the risk level you are willing to accept. Those are just my personal boundaries. You should ask what kind of sex what sex looks like to the person. Just when you're asking for sex, just ask what that means to them, so just so you know you are on the same page. Because you might be asking, hey, can I put my dick in your mouth? And they could be like, cool, butt stuff. Just like making sure you are talking about the same thing when you say sex. Just knowing that it's the beginning of a negotiation. It is the same as asking somebody. It's playful, right? Like your kids, like when you're asking someone to play house and they say yes. And it's the beginning of a negotiation. You don't just assume what roles you're going to play in this house. You start talking about that then. And that's okay. And we do that without judgment and shame. And you're just playing together. And that's cool.
Yeah.
So what am I doing now? I am, again, finishing up my capstone paper. That should be due June the 15th, and then as soon as that is done, I plan on starting up again with my webinars and adult all of the pieces that I had during my presentation, so that is available to sex educators and everyone, because it just should be. And where to actually find these things. I also am working on a list of all of the support things I bought myself for chronic illness to do with the actual chronic illness support and chronic illness and sex, because there are a lot of things that intersectionality brings up that I'm just like, you know what? These specific pillows or this specific thing has helped a lot. I don't know, I'm kind of just trying to figure out what it's going to look like. I know that this business is clearly coming together, Heather, and I'm trying to get the media presence going, and fucking know. I don't know, be an adult, survive a pandemic, the same as everybody else. Like, it's so hard to, like, everything seems like it's happening so fast, and I'm supposed to have the answers to everything. I was like, I promise I'm making this up as I go. I'm just trying to look like I had a plan.
Yeah. Well,
there will be availability to pay me to do something soon, because I was told by one of my partners that I need to stop doing stuff for free, and I immediately was just like, that's stupid. I'm gonna do whatever I want. And then he was just like, hey, as a queer Black woman in the world who worked too fucking hard and has done way too much to gain all this knowledge, stop doing shit for free. And I was just like, oh shit, that one's real. So soon there will be opportunity to pay me for all this information.
okay.
It will probably still be cheap. But that's just who I am as a person. I can't. I just want to give it away so bad. I'm just like, I just want to help everyone.
Well, thank you for, like, all the workshops you've done so far. I'm gonna have links to those in the show comments. Also, if you're cool, I would love to have a link to the spreadsheet, the template you made for folks. And if you do have, like, a Venmo or PayPal, like, I can put that in the links below too, because yes, we deserve to be paid for this work.
We do. And we get into this world, and you kind of just know that you're not going to, but you hope. You hope, right? Like,
yeah.
A little bit of some value in it.
Yeah.
And then you cry yourself to sleep and go to your capitalistic household for 8 hours a day.
Accurate.
I'm not bad. It's okay.
Accurate. Oh, goodness. Well.
Okay, but I'm going to send you those links right now, because I am me, and I'll forget if I don't do it literally right now.
Okay, that's perfect. Well, thank you for being on this episode, and this has been rad and really informative and very freeing. I think I've talked more about, like, what I like during sex to the entire tea of the world.
Yeah.
This is the first time, so yes. Woo!
Yes. I love it so much. Thank you for being so open and here with me. And where is your sexual energy at right now?
Oh my gosh, it's all over my body. Like, I'm feeling it. Like, I'm like, I don't want to go to work right now. Relish in this?
I love it.
What about you?
I feel like my sexual energy is, it feels like it is in my chest, in my throat, and it feels like it's pulling me to go sit on my balcony.
Yes,
and hang out
hard.
for a while and just feel it.
All right, well, enjoy your balcony and, like, feeling it in the heart and throat.
I will. I'm sorry you have to go to work, but you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I very much enjoyed the conversation, and I will talk to you again soon.
All right.
These fashion moments.
So, do you like me, or do you love me? Please heart the episode, share the episode, and subscribe at sunseedcommunity.com.